Hey guys, and welcome back to another video on LumberCapitalLY Guide. Today I'm going to be going over some crucial maintenance tasks that will need to be performed every day on your mill if you want it to last for a long time. And I think that some of these you might not know about. So without further ado, let's get into it. Before we get into some of the newer things I want to share with you guys today, we have to go over some of the more obvious things because, hey, it might not be obvious to everyone. And if you are a new mill owner, this is a really important video for you because you're going to be calling Wood Miser every 10 minutes if you don't do proper maintenance to your machine, because it really prevents a lot of things down the road. You want to take good care of your machines, and it's not always that you're too lazy to just, there are some things you just have no idea about. And like me, when Mr. Knoll came over and he did an alignment on the machines, there was a few things that I was missing, and we're going to talk about that here today. But first, I already said this, first we've got to go over the obvious stuff. And number one is blowing off your machine. We always blow our machine off with a leaf blower when we're done, and we're done running the mill here today, and you see how much sawdust is just all over it. But there's a few important places that will need blown off, and that is up here. So that takes, climbing up on your mill and, blowing down in there, because everything is covered in sawdust. It can't be helped. It's a messy, messy job. And thankfully, if it's not raining out, it can just be all blown away. And that makes the job pretty easy. So I'm going to grab that leaf blower and get that done first. Then I'll get back to you. Doesn't that just look a whole lot better? Now, if you didn't notice, I did focus a lot on making sure that the engine was blown off, and also down here at the base. Now, I had the head lowered so that it would be easier to get up on there to blow off up top, but then that kind of makes it harder to clean up all of the sawdust under here. So a lot of sawdust, oh my gosh, this machine, it makes so much sawdust. I mean, we only ran this thing for half a day, and there were 2 whole bucket loads, so about 2 yards of sawdust that made in only a matter of hours. So a lot of sawdust gets shoved down here at the base, and that can really jam up some stuff if you let it build up for more than one day. So that is something that has to happen every single day. We don't miss a single day on it. We don't. So now that that's done, we can get to some of this greasing, because there are things that I've added to my list since last time we talked about this. So while there are lots of maintenance tasks that need done on the mill, not everything has to be done every single day. I really wanted to focus on the things that you really do need to be doing every single time that you use your mill, and one of those was something I had no idea about until, like I said, a little while back when Mr. Knoll came and aligned our sawmill. I knew it needed done, I just didn't know it needed done every single day. So that is what I'm about to get into, but I need to put on my little latex gloves because, you know what, you guys, you know I'm not huge advocates for wearing gloves, but when it comes to dealing with chemicals, that's something I don't screw around with because your skin is your body's largest organ, and yes, it does soak a lot of things up. Anything that comes into contact with your skin is gonna be soaked in, and I don't know how good ATF is for your skin. I guess I could start adding it to my skin care routine and let you know. It wouldn't be that hard because, hey, I have to use this stuff every single day, don't I? So, enough joking around. Let's talk about what this task is. A little tasky task. All right, so you see this chain. It's basically, not what the head necessarily rides on. It rides on this bar right here, which can use some ATF. And you can come and look. Actually, I want you guys to see, just so you understand the mechanism behind how this goes back and forth here. It rides on this bar, but this chain, it also kind of rides on this chain. Can you see back in there? Ish. Yeah, so he told me, well, he enlightened me, that this needs ATF on it every single day. And I was like, oh shoot, I have not been doing that every single day. It was kind of in my weekly maintenance, which is more what I do when I grease the machine, but not on my everyday list at all. So you're here with me today, doing my little daily task of greasing this sucker up. It does, I mean, to get the whole chain, you're gonna have to move the head, which kind of sucks, but I just manually push it. So I just take a rag, and I am not conservative with this stuff, okay? I slather it, lather it, splather it, I don't think that's a word, all up on this thing. And the thing about ATF is sawdust sticks to it, so then it's almost like you gotta do it every single day, otherwise that sawdust is gonna build up on that pretty bad. And, oops, sorry, every single one of these rolls, you know, look at that. Every single one of these rolls. And I feel like if you didn't do that every single day, you'd have a lot of these that are gonna stop rolling after a time. And if you're not gonna go and literally hand turn every single one, well, you're just not gonna know. But keeping a nice lathery slather of ATF on this is definitely going to do the trick. And this thing runs across the whole mill. So we've got to get all of it here. And you know what? This isn't something that takes that much time. It really shouldn't, unless it really needs it. Just do a run up and down on it and you should be good to go. See, that's all it needs. All right, we're all good. This thing's so gross. Just using it every single day. It's like, ugh, I need a new one. You know what? And while you're at it, you may as well just wipe down this bar really quick because you already have the rag. You already have the grease on it. You may as well just really quick run it down this bar because just think about how many times that head moves back and forth in one day of running it. A whole lot. Maybe we should count next time. Oof, that would be a task. I'll leave that up to Jade. Jade, count how many times. She doesn't like that idea. Man, I picked the wrong day to be drinking hot coffee. It's making me sweat. But hey, what can I say? How else am I supposed to remember to grease if I don't have a little bit of caffeine in me? I'm just kidding, I don't need caffeine, but what do I need it for? You know what, sometimes I forget. But then, if I don't have it, I just feel so empty inside. Anyhow, back to it. Now, I wanted to go over some things that don't necessarily need done every single day, but I haven't mentioned yet on the channel, and I think they're pretty important. This one, I've low-key kind of been neglecting, because you actually have to use tools to access it, which just sucks when you have greasy hands, and then you're getting all up in your tools with your greasy hands. It's just not the best. But here I have a 11mm wrench, and it's this bar that spans kind of in between these two boxes where the head is. And I'm going to just unscrew them. There are 4, plus these 2 wing nuts on the sides. Now, you should just be able to pop this sucker off. And what you're gonna see is there's this fabric-y part under it. And you could actually see how it was squishing out on the side there. That's not good. I meant that it was just kind of messed up in there. But it's also really dry, which means I should probably be doing this more. But this piece of fabric, it runs along the bar there, and what you're supposed to do is actually take some of your ATF and soak it up, really. Just dump it on there and let it soak in. And that way you always kind of have, you know, we were doing that just with the cloth, but that's primarily doing the same thing, right? And honestly, I could use a replacement. I bet I can get another one of these, a newer one, because you just see how dirty and sawdusty it is. But yeah, I just let that soak in there and slide it back in. Should get the cap on that. Slide it back in here. And I can get it back in there right this time. Now that we're just getting this back on, you know, this is kind of a time-consuming maintenance task that you definitely don't want to be doing every single day. That took me a little bit. Not to say that you can't get really efficient at it, but there are just so many little bolts and little parts that come off with that fall all over if you don't have your together and all that. So yeah, that one's not my favorite to do, but it's an important one and can't be left out. So now that we have that tightened back up, there's one other thing that I want to make all of my fellow mill owners aware about. And so if you have an LT70, you got to be doing this one. I try and do it quite often because, I mean, if you just take a minute to think about it, what grease bearing do you think is used the most out of everything? Well, there's one in particular, and that is the one in here. It's the drive belt bearing. And if you really think about it, that one's going to be used probably the most out of anything, because it's, I mean, the blade's always going around and around, and it's especially used when you turn it off and on, which, you know, you try not to turn the blade off and on as much as possible because of efficiency, but you're left doing that a lot anyhow, and so it's gonna get used quite often. So we're actually going to put the mill head back down so we can get in there. And this is, once again, a trickier one because the blade has to be off in order to access it. So while the blade is off right now, this is just for the video. I usually grease this one in between blade changes. So this is just you know, the art of remembering, because you're constantly changing the blade. There's plenty of opportunities to get this one greased. It's just remembering to do it, and also knowing that it's there to begin with. So that's what this video is for. If you guys didn't know that there is an important greased fitting in there, now you know, and I'm going to show you here in a second. I'm going to put this away. Jade, put the mill head down, and we'll get to it. Like I said, the blade does have to be off, and you can see why. Because it's kind of tricky to get to even with the blade off, but it's back in here. And it's, you know, what greases the drive belt. So you can see how important that is. If you have a drive belt fail, well, that's not good. It's not an easy repair, and it's kind of expensive. So you want to keep this thing greased as much as possible. How often do I think it should be greased? That's hard to say. I don't think it needs done every single day. I think that it could definitely be done, though, more than once a week. So while most of my other grease sparings are about once a week, this one twice, maybe 3 times if I feel like it. Like I said, whenever you take it off, it's a good habit to put a little grease into it. So I'm just gonna do that now because it definitely needs done. Not just for the video, it actually really does need done. And you know, with the angle of this thing, it is actually pretty hard to get in there. You might need to turn it up. Oh yeah, I think I had it facing down a little bit. I thought it adjusted itself. I didn't remember it being quite that hard. There you go. So yeah, you might need to turn it a little bit to get it in there. And she is thirsty today. I'm not afraid to over-grease this thing. Nothing bad ever happened from over-greasing that I know of. Okay, maybe I'll be scolded in the comments for that one, but nothing that I know of. All right, and this mill is all set and ready to go first thing in the morning. And I think we're moving on to hemlock for tomorrow, but that's an adventure for another day. If you guys found this video informational, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. There's plenty more content like this coming to you in the future. Also, give a comment about your experience owning a mill, running a sawmill, whatever it is. Leave a comment and let us know what you think. Other than that, we'll see you back here next time. Bye.